Hello everyone and welcome to Asset's Summer 2025 Video AOA Alert. This update will walk through key airfield construction activities, AOA closures, and service road changes happening between June 17th and August 7th at O'Hare International Airport. Over the next few months, major construction projects will begin across the airfield, and many of these are major changes that will impact how we move aircraft, drive service vehicles, and get around the airport. So buckle up, put your trays in the upright position, and get ready because it's going to get busy. It's important that everyone, pilots, mechanics, and drivers alike, understand what's changing and, more importantly, why it's happening. Please review this information with your coworkers and your teams to keep everybody on the same page. Please remember something: slow down, stay alert, and stay safe on the airfield. Although this change occurred on Tuesday, June 17th, it's important we all remain aware of the changes moving forward and keep everyone aware on how airfield construction projects will affect the airfield and all of us driving and taxiing out there. As of June 17th, the Alpha and the Alpha 14 taxiways have been reopened, and the Alpha 15 taxiway has been closed, technically in two locations. The first closure is Alpha 15 closed between the Alpha and the Bravo taxiway, and then the second closure is Alpha 15 taxiway closed between Bravo and the Victor 2 taxi lane. Please note that both the Alpha and Bravo taxiways will remain open during the day. These taxiways will require closures in the overnight hours between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. for construction activities. Typically, only one of the taxiways will be closed at a time, but on some nights, both taxiways may need to be closed. You may have also noticed that we are referring to Victor 2 as a taxi lane instead of a taxiway. On Saturday, June 21st, the Victor 2 taxi lane was returned to a taxi lane status. But for right now, it is going to be referred to as Victor 2 instead of the International Taxi Lane. As you can see in the graphics, the movement and non-movement boundary lines have been repainted on the Victor 1, Alpha 14, and Alpha 15 taxiways back to gate M1. This area right over here. And the movement non-movement boundary line that was painted along the service road has been removed. All other subsequent markings have been returned to when this was a taxi lane. Important to note is that we are keeping the name Victor 2 taxi lane for right now. On August 7th, which is the next FAA publication date, the Victor 2 designation will revert back to the International Taxi Lane. So please keep that in mind. From today until August 7th, please use the designation Victor 2 Taxi Lane. After August 7th, it'll go back to the International Taxi Lane. The last thing that we want to discuss is the service road between Terminal 5 and the L Concourse. This will be reopened somewhere between Friday, June 27th and Tuesday, July 1st. There's still some logistics to be worked out. That's why we don't have a final date yet. But be on the lookout. Once the barricades have been removed from the middle of the island, the zipper markings have been repainted, and the amber taxiway lights have been replaced, that's when you know the service road has been reopened. You mainly want to look for the barricades in between the grass island right in this area. Once you see those are gone, the road should be open for use. A major milestone for O'Hare International Airport will be the start of construction of the new 900,000 square foot Satellite 1 terminal building, which will connect to the south end of the existing Charlie Concourse. Over the life of this project, several taxiways and service roads will be closed, rerouted, and relocated to accommodate construction activities. Both vehicle and aircraft access routes around the gates and terminals will be affected. This project will progress in phases and will provide updates as it evolves. As of right now, Satellite 1 is scheduled to open in December of 2028. The first significant change for the start of construction of Satellite 1 will occur on July 1st with the opening of the new Romeo and Tango taxiways between Kilo and Alpha taxiways. The midfield ramp is now closed due to the new Romeo taxiway running straight through it. On this slide, the white box on the Tango taxiway represents the first phase of construction of the new heating and refrigeration plant that will be built to service the new terminals. The Tango taxiway will remain closed for the installation of the piping system that will connect the new H&R plant to Satellite 1 and ultimately the new O'Hare Global Terminal. This requires the open-cut excavation of pavement and infield grass areas to install the new piping system and will be completed in phases, basically from the location of the new H&R plant across to the Charlie Concourse, continuing to the Bravo Concourse, and then ultimately to the end of the Echo Concourse. Around November 1st, the phasing will shift. Piping installation will continue to the east, and the Tango taxiway will be opened and the Romeo taxiway will be closed. Along with the closure of Romeo, it is estimated a few of the midfield parking areas will be reopened for the 2025-2026 winter season. We will keep everybody up to date as dates and closures are finalized in future AOA alerts. Also on July 1st, simultaneously with the opening of the Romeo and Tango taxiways, we will be closing the Quebec taxiway between taxiways Uniform 5 and Uniform 6. This closure will start the second phase of work for the piping installation to the new terminals. Existing closed pavements, infields, and pavement on the Quebec taxiway will need to be removed to install this new pipework. This section of Quebec is expected to reopen somewhere in the November or December timeline of 2025. The next simultaneous closure will be the Uniform taxiway between taxiways Uniform 6 and Uniform 7, along with the Charlie Sierra taxi lane. These are permanent closures and will never be reopened again. As you can see in this graphic, the white outline represents the footprint of the new Satellite 1 structure, which will require several closures and changes to complete the new terminal over the course of the project. There's another big change that occurs on Satellite 1 on August 7th, which we will discuss in just a couple slides. This slide provides a larger overview of the taxiways that will be closed and the available taxi route from the Uniform to the Quebec taxiway via the Uniform 6 transition on July 1st. But there are still lots of changes to be happening. To avoid overwhelming everyone at once, the taxiway changes occur on July 1st, but the service road changes you see here won't take effect until July 7th after the holiday weekend. We didn't want everything to occur at one time, and the week difference should provide enough time to get somewhat familiar with the taxiway changes before the roadway changes occur. On July 7th, around 9 a.m., all the service roads shown in red will be permanently closed with a seamless transition. The new service road alignment will be opened as shown in black. Please be aware that there might be some minor adjustments as we fine-tune the alignment of the road. It's impossible to realize the impacts on the construction area until the road is laid out, but generally it will look very similar in the alignment you see here. The new service road will be clearly marked with paint, barricades, and sign. This should eliminate confusion of getting around the construction area to the surrounding terminals. As you could see in the graphic, we will be adding a new T intersection off the main service road to take vehicles north into the C concourse right around gate Charlie 1. This added path reduces congestion and the length of time it will take to get around all the concourses. Be aware that this new service road will be running right through the construction site. You will be sharing the road with construction vehicles, flaggers, and fellow airport drivers. Please slow down in this new construction area. We would rather a driver be delayed a few minutes getting to their gate or to their airplane as compared to someone getting into an accident out on the job site. One last thing to note is that this road, of course, is going to move again. Around August 7th, about a month after Satellite 1 starts, construction will be at a point where construction activities will require the road to be relocated. As you can see, the road will be moved approximately 300 feet to the east, but will now cross two active taxi lanes, the Bravo Concourse line and the Charlie Concourse line. The crossing to the C Concourse will be maintained, as shown by this line in blue. As we get closer to that date, we will send out new AOA alerts to further elaborate on the changes and what drivers need to be on the lookout for when crossing through this taxi lane area. As you can see by the outline of the orange area, this construction site is just over 18 acres right in the middle of the airfield. This will be a high-volume, high-activity work zone with hundreds of vehicles going in and out and using the same service roads that our airport and airline drivers use on a daily basis. This will be a significant construction site with hundreds of employees and several unique construction operations occurring at once. Pavement removal, drilling for large foundations, and the ultimate construction of the actual terminal building. The summer months are always busy for the airlines and air traffic. We are asking everybody from our advanced drivers, our basic drivers, taxi mechanics, and pilots to slow down and be alert to the new construction traffic patterns and vehicles and workers. As we have discussed, airfield changes will be happening very quickly, and it's important for all of us to keep up to date as possible with these changes. On August 7th, just 1 month after we close the taxiways, that happened on July 1st, there will be another significant change that can get a little bit confusing. So we'll spend a little bit of time to try and clearly explain what will be happening. Now, these changes are in no particular order, but it's important to note that all of these changes will start on Wednesday, August 6th around 10 p.m., and everything that you see on the screen here will be completed by 6 a.m. on Thursday, August 7th. The first change will be the redesignation of the Uniform 5 taxiway to the Kilo taxiway. So the Kilo taxiway will now extend all the way across to the Uniform taxiway. The next big change will be the shift or the realignment of the existing Uniform taxiway onto the Quebec taxiway pavement. This shift is required for the start of other significant construction projects within the construction area as shown on the graphic. In addition to the realignment of the taxiway, the entire taxiway will be redesignated as the Uniform taxiway. So the portion of the Quebec taxiway from Uniform 6 down to Uniform 7 will now be referred to as the Uniform taxiway. Uniform 6 taxiway between taxiways Quebec and Uniform will be permanently closed. And of course, not to further confuse everyone, but the previous section that was designated as Uniform down in this corner right over here between Uniform 7 and Alpha will now be designated entirely as the Uniform 7 taxiway. As you can see, these are rapid airfield changes, and it's important for everybody to stay current, up to date, and further understand how these changes will affect you and your company out on the airfield. These changes on the 7th are big to say the least, and it could really affect everyone that drives and taxis in this area. Please take some time now with your team and your employees so everyone is familiar and ready when these changes do take effect on August 7th. This graphic shows a more simplified overview of the airfield conditions that will be in effect on August 7th at 6 a.m. The new realigned Uniform taxiway will be opened, and the area around Uniform 6 will be closed and part of the construction site. You can also see the service road crossing between the Charlie and the Echo Concourse has been located outside the construction area. But of course, wait, there's more. Let's move on over to the east side of the airport and talk about those changes. The next airfield change will take place on July 9th with the start of Phase 6 of the Taxiway Lima Lima construction project. From the previous phase, the Victor 6 taxiway will be reopened. In this phase, the Victor taxiway will be closed between Victor 6 and November taxiways, along with the Victor 7 transition. The Victor 6 transition remains open once Victor 7 is closed. This closure is required for the installation of new utilities across portions of the taxiway. The second airfield change will be the closing of the Yankee taxiway between Taxiway Victor and the 28 right approach. This closure is required to complete the tie-in of the new Lima taxiway pavement into the Yankee taxiway, as you can see in this graphic right here. As you can see by the green outline, access to both runway 28 right and 22 left will be maintained at all times via the Victor 6 taxiway. In this graphic, please notice the temporary geometry of the Yankee taxiway on the north side of the 28 right approach. In several conversations with the FAA Control Tower and CDA operations, it was determined to simplify this intersection during the 60-day phase of work by only keeping one centerline entrance open to the runway. The area will be restriped for this single centerline entrance. Here you can see the temporary geometry for the Yankee taxiway during the 60-day closure. A temporary edge line will be painted from the runway to the November taxiway, and the taxiway centerline south of the mandatory hold bar will be straight and terminate at the runway edge line. The existing centerline radius leading onto the runway will be blacked out. This was an agreed-upon decision coordinated with FAA Control Tower and CDA operations to improve clarity and reduce complexity during this phase of construction. The south side of runway 28 right at Yankee Taxiway will remain as is and does not change. Lastly, we want to call special attention to the runway status light systems, or RWSL. As you can see, we are straightening the yellow center line from the whole bar to the edge of the runway edge line, but the runway entrance lights, the RELs, will follow the original curved center line. Once again, in discussions with the FAA Control Tower, FAA Tech Ops, and CDA Operations, it was determined keeping them operational provides an important safety level, even though they will not follow the new temporary painted center line. For this temporary 60-day configuration, the RELs will deviate from the new straight taxiway center line. As represented by these white dots, if you are at the whole bar and the RELs turn on, they will deviate from the center line marking around the third light prior to the runway. Everyone is in agreement that it's better to have the runway status light system operational even though they don't line up with the painted center lines, which will notify pilots, drivers, or taxi mechanics when the runway is occupied. Remember, if the red lights turn on, do not proceed onto the runway. Contact air traffic control and get confirmation of what you are supposed to do. In this temporary situation, the system will alert you when the runway is occupied, so please respect the lights and stay alert. As you've seen, the next several weeks will bring some of the most significant airfield changes that we have seen in years at O'Hare International Airport. Taxiways are shifting, service roads are being rerouted, and construction zones are expanding fast. These are not just lines on a map. They impact how we drive, where we park, and how we safely move around the airfield. That's why it's so important to stay alert. Watch for the new signage, pay attention to changing traffic patterns, and most importantly, please do your part to help keep things moving safely. This is a shared responsibility. Whether you're driving a tug, pushing back an aircraft, or taxiing an airplane, everyone plays a role in staying informed and working safely around these evolving conditions. So check for updates, talk with your team, ask questions if you're unsure. Never assume things are the same as yesterday. What you see today could be very different tomorrow. The airfield is changing, and we need to change with it. Thanks for doing your part, and thanks for keeping things safe. One last thing to say is please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Apparently, if we get enough subscribers, that's how we eventually become an aviation influencer, whatever that might mean. Be safe and check back for additional video AOA alerts in this very busy construction season.